Okay, cool. So we're recording now. So hi, my name is Blunt and I am a pro dom in New York City, and I'm here with Charlotte, and I'm super excited to talk with you because I've known you for so long. We have such a history. Would you want to
You've
introduce?
known me? Hi. Sorry, I don't mean to talk over you. Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm just a silly lady. Um, that's and yeah, I've known you since literally my very first day in porn, which I think is really awesome, and not a lot of people can say that they've been friends with somebody in the industry for that long.
I know, truly. I was thinking about it last night when I was thinking about chatting with you, and I was like, I think it was her first porn shoot. And I was working as the videographer for like a kinky, I call it like a kinky Rube Goldberg type experiment porn website. And I was doing videography for a while I was pro doming. And because you were camming before that, right? Yeah, I think I remember being told like the performer who's coming next week has never like shot like a mainstream porn, but like can fist their asshole.
Yeah, the funny thing about that is I had been thinking about going into porn for a long time, and when I was 18, I was like, well, I'll try the college thing for a couple years. Didn't quite pan out, and then I was doing webcamming on like MFC, Chatterbait, Kink Live, back when Kink Live was the only site that would let you fist your ass, and now I think they've been sold to like Flirt for Free or something, so they're not quite as chill. Um, but like my personal goal before like I really wanted to jump into porn, I was like, okay, I have to be able to fist my own ass or else I'm not worthy. And then like come to find out there's like girls who don't do anal, which
I like
I
that your
had.
metric of success is this fist must go into my own asshole.
Yeah, and I had no idea, but I'm like, like I'm already here. I might as well commit to the bit. So here we
You're
are.
an overachiever, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Truly impressive. Um, yeah, and your career sort of took off from there, from what it looks like from the outside, and we've stayed in touch. And I don't know, I kind of want to talk about, so I think you shot multiple times at the site that I was doing the videography for. And then I feel like you were doing mostly submissive content at that point.
Yeah, I remember I had like a really shitty agent who like kind of landed me my first shoot at that website, and I remember asking the producer, it was like, hey, I just dumped my agent because they suck. Can you like, do you know anybody else who would want to hire me? So um, from there, I got an interview at kink.com because I was living in the Bay Area at that time. And also, I didn't really know that I was a switch when I first got into porn because I wasn't like super sexually experienced. Like I had like one boyfriend and like an array of girlfriends, but like I was just kind of subby with everybody. So I didn't really know until like I kind of fell into doing dom stuff by happenstance. And you're actually like the first person I ever did like ball busting with. And now I have like this humongous ball busting fetish, which I think is awesome.
I love that. I remember that scene very vividly. You stayed with me for a couple nights and like came along to the sessions that I had lined up for that week. And that session is definitely the one that stood out, just like watching the glee in your face as you're like, I can do this.
It made me so horned up, like personally, but also it just kind of like unlocked this like different part of my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know like that this could be like enjoyable for me, like sexually, and like also so like spiritually fulfilling. And also it was like a whole mess of fun. And I'm just like always so grateful that you like um let me into like your sessions, because it's such like, such a private and vulnerable thing. And I really got to like see your dynamic with your subs. And since then I've seen like people do all different styles of domination, but I've always really admired your like kind of nurturing style, but also like horribly cruel at the same time. But like you toe that line so well, and I feel like um, for the subs, like they experience like this extreme of pain or whatever it is. I mean, depending on the sub and what they're into, and then it's like they get this like big release like on the other side of that, like maybe not like orgasmically, but like spiritually. Like they always leave like looking like they just got a massage or something.
Yeah, they like float out of my dungeon. And I think
Yeah.
it's really, I like hearing, thank you for saying that though. Those are all like very nice things to hear and receive. But I think that there's something there about first of all, I want to hear your TED talk of like ball busting and spirituality. I would pay good money to see
Oh,
that.
thank you. I feel like the two are very much intertwined.
Yeah, like life fulfillment through ball busting and surrender. Um, I and I think that like altered state, like whether or not that there's an orgasm involved. I think what I never understood about like sex that doesn't involve BDSM is that it only is interested in pleasure. And I'm like, oh, that's like only a fraction of what life is. And it feels like there's so much more. And I think through like playing with intensities, whether it be like intensities of pleasure, vulnerability, intimacy, or pain, that there's this like chance to get into this like altered state where you're like putty in someone's hand and like floating, and like you can kind of like reassemble some pieces and just like really like that. Like, I guess I've never thought of it entirely as spiritual, but like this like altered state of mush. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I don't know. I think that's like one reason I felt so unfulfilled like in my sexual relationships, especially before I got into porn, which really helped me experience like the full spectrum of my sexuality. Now, like especially with my relationship with my husband, like he's very much submissive, but like we also switch off from time to time. And it's just so cool. Like when we have sex, like I don't necessarily always like want to come. I'm like, no, I just want to like hurt your balls and like jerk you off, or like I just want to peg you for like half an hour. And
Sex can be so much more.
yeah, or like sometimes he'll just like want to go down on me and then not want anything else. So it's like it's not always like both people orgasming isn't always like the end all be all. Sometimes it's just like sharing that dynamic and power exchange. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I feel like the potential for like what sex can be gets expanded so much when you're not like basing an endpoint on an orgasm. And like if you ask any of my personal submissives, an orgasm certainly isn't part of most of their sex lives. Hopefully they won't unionize. um but yeah, like for like I'm really interested in orgasm denial as like an end point, and like seeing that frustration build. And I feel like both like ball busting or orgasm denial, and or even just like sex without the um purpose of orgasm, or I guess procreation too, is like a very interesting way to like expand what sex can be.
I completely agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been so fun watching your Femdom ball busting site kind of take off.
Oh,
Like, I was like, yes, she's doing such a good job.
thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping to like get a membership site going with that. I'm currently working on like a sex membership site because I'm like, okay, that's definitely gonna make money. I'll focus on that first. But yeah, my husband, he was working on like clips for sale for years and years, and then he still is both, but like he put all his clips for sale stuff onto a membership site, and I just get to see him like running this femdom website, and I'm like, oh, that looks so fun. I just want to, one of my favorite things is just like hiring somebody and then like kicking them in the balls or like pegging them or whatever, and I like get to edit it afterwards. And I don't know, it just is really fulfilling for me. And like since the pandemic, I haven't really been able to film as much femdom stuff. And then with my husband, like, we'll be in the middle of something and I'm like kicking him in the balls and I'm like, oh, I really don't feel like getting the camera out right now. I'm like, I'm too horny. So it certainly doesn't like make a ton of money, but it makes me happy, which I think is important. Not everything has to be about like capitalism.
I honestly, I want to read your essay on ball busting.
Yeah.
um, yeah, what does it like feel like for you to kick someone in the balls?
So I think, and like a lot of guys I've talked to about this, the kicking isn't necessarily like everyone's favorite aspect of ball busting. Like I think for video, it certainly like looks the hottest because like you have like, you know, a strong, beautiful leg, like an ass jiggling. Like I love being able to see the guy's reaction like as he gets hit, but oftentimes like it's hard to land a kick that you can't really see that well. So
Yeah.
sometimes like it ends up on the taint, or you know, you guys get like a bruised like inner thigh or something. Um, but it like I think the idea is super hot. But what I found like a lot of people I do ball busting with seem to really like is like squeezing and like punching. I think because like that hand to ball connection is just the most intimate. And I certainly feel that way too. Like I get really horny when I'm kicking a guy in the balls, but there's something just about like grabbing and squeezing or like pulsating and just like looking at him in the eye and like the eyebrows go like, oh,
And
it
they want to
hurts.
take more for you, even though they're like, it
Yeah.
might be very close to what they can take. That's such a hot. When you were describing the like the muscly leg kicking up, I feel like there's something about that tension that's very like kind of like objectifying and distant, which is hot in its own way. Whereas like using your hand is so intimate and personal. And I always, whenever anyone asks me what my favorite implement is, I'm like either my hand or my brain. Like I don't need anything
Oh,
else.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's one reason I really, really admire your style of domination because, yeah, I've done shoots where they're like, "Oh, do you know how to use a whip?" And I'm like, honestly, no, I've never held one, but like, I really like punching people and like kicking them, and I feel like it's, you know, the warmth of the hand, and I love like hitting somebody like on whatever part of their body, and then I feel it sting back because it's like, um it's not without like me taking a little bit of pain too. Um, and I feel like having done submissive stuff for so long, it's made me really appreciate um, the submissives like on the other side of like me dominating so much more. I'm always like uh, more trusting, like if I'm submitting to somebody in a scene, if they've like experienced all the things that they're doing to me. And like I don't know what bell busting feels like, but I've had a lot of horrible things done to my genitals, so I feel like it's kind of similar.
Yeah, and I think switches always make the best doms. I'll die on that hill.
Hmm.
And there's something like about like the way like I come to like pro doming from like a personal interest in BDSM and like trained as a bottom switch, like a classical old guard type space, which I don't think is the only way, but I think that it is very like interesting and helpful to like understand psychologically what someone might be going through or to like get a better understanding of that. And yeah, and I think painful hand jobs are underrated.
Oh,
Teeth and
they're
blow
so
jobs
hot.
are underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. My husband like really loves hand jobs more than blowjobs actually, but it's like I'm like, why is that? Like every dude loves blowjobs. And he's like, well, like I can only see the top of your head when you're blowing me. And it's just so much more intimate with your hands. You can do so much more. It's really hard for me to like ball bust somebody while I'm sucking their dick because I can't get that far.
Get far away.
But if I'm like, yeah, if I have some separation, I can really do that. Another thing I really love playing with is like the idea and especially the threat of castration.
Mm.
Like when I first heard the term like castration anxiety, I was like, oh my God, that's going to be super hot. But then it was just like some like boring, like psychological term. But I like to give people like the real like anxiety of castration. I just think that's a lot more sexy. Like my favorite is like with my husband, if we're like having sex or whatever, I'm like, okay, right after you come, I'm gonna cut your balls off, and he'll just like come instantly. Like,
I
it's
love
not worth
finding that
it.
one thing that works for someone is so powerful too. And it can be so different. And like, I think that's where I find the most enjoyment is like seeing you right there being like, oh, I know what I can say to like have this control over you.
It
Hot.
makes me so happy, and I love like the idea of just having someone's balls on display. Like, I often think of like, oh my gosh, there's only like two balls, unless like I castrate more men. Like, what would I do with them? Like,
Continue
okay, I'm like,
overachieving.
yeah, I'm like, well, I want to do like a wet preservation specimens, like, you know, have balls in a jar, like in some formaldehyde, like on my mantelpiece or shelf somewhere. But then I'm like, oh, but they would be really cute as like earrings. But then it's like, well, with the earrings, you need like a matching necklace.
Yeah.
So it's like, who else's balls am I gonna get? And I love like the idea of kind of like subtly like signaling to other people in the lifestyle uh that like you're into stuff, like wearing a chastity key around your neck, I think is like super hot. But then like, wouldn't it be amazing to just like wear balls as earrings?
Yeah.
And then you meet somebody like post pandemic, like at a gathering or something. Oh, those are beautiful earrings. Oh, they thank you so much. You know, they're actually my husband's balls. Well, they were.
Now they're mine.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I wish you ample balls and castration in your future.
Thank you.
I
I
filmed
I feel like I'd be good at it. Like
I filmed a really fun clip in the beginning of the pandemic with Mistress Odette. It was who's like a hardcore like medical fetishist, really beautiful aesthetic. Yeah. And we did a like a domestic wife like wanting to talk about the options of chastity versus castration. And we did a telehealth visit and it was so fun. We both got so excited. I was
oh
like,
my
please tell me
gosh.
about my options about controlling my husband's orgasm. And she's like, well, some people like chastity, but for me, I prefer castration. And she has like all of these amazing tools. It was so fun.
Oh my gosh, I need to like find the link and buy that.
I'll send it to you.
That's magnificent.
Um, I've also seen on Twitter like really intense like body modification scenes where doms have actually like taken the testicles like out. Have you seen those? I'm sure you have, like out of the sack and like then like sutured it back up.
Oh, I think that's so hot. And I love where I can't remember like who does a lot of this, but I think multiple people I follow and it's super hot every time, but like stapling the sack together.
Yes.
And I love stapling because it like looks so severe and it certainly like hurts when like you're getting stapled, but it's not like the most horrible thing. And it
Right.
just like,
Different than like impact.
yeah, and like I got my pussy stapled shut one time and it was a ball and a biscuit, let me tell you. It was fun. So like I now I feel like I really understand like what it would be like for a dude to get his scrotum stapled shut. It just looks so nice, like having that like neat little seam that's like meticulously stapled and it's just like Barbie doll down there.
Like make I have like a part of my website of like canvases of people I've like decorated with staples and needles and it's
Yeah,
really
you were
fun.
the first person I did needle play with.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that.
I was like going through before Instagram like updated its TOS. I was like going through and trying to clean up my profile, and then I found that picture where you did, I think it was like a heart or something
Yeah,
on my chest, and I was like, oh,
it's so cute.
memories. Like, well, this is getting archived, but
Yeah. Um, yeah, so sewed up someone's pussy before for a prom night scene, which was really fun.
That's sweet.
I was like both the overprotective dad and the date.
And you
And
just wearing multiple hats.
I know, just like doing it all really. um, and stapling ball, like recreating someone's genitals is super interesting. I've done those with super glue too, like medical super glue is, and to like turn someone into a Ken doll. And then watching them get an erection is just truly beautiful and amusing. It's like so good.
I think that that's amazing. I also love like toying with the idea of sissification in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, well, you weren't, you know, very good as a man. Like, let's turn you into a woman. So I'm building your pussy right now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just think that's super hot.
Yeah, it very very like Femdom Frankenstein.
Yeah.
um yeah, like I'm also interested, you were talking about like your relationship with your husband and like being a switch, and like how do you kind of navigate that or negotiate that, like particularly I'd imagine it's like more intense during a pandemic when you're spending so much time together too.
Oh yeah, well it's been really nice to spend so much time with each other during the pandemic, and I feel like we've both been like exploring ourselves like together but also separately.
Yeah,
Like if I'm like at like a doctor's appointment or whatever, like or running errands, I come home and it's like it's not my business like what he's doing
right.
when I'm not there. But then like I'll go in the bathroom and there's like dildos this long and like chastity cages and um like a Hitachi, and I'm like, oh, he's been busy. and like and like we've like explored like and discovered so much about ourselves. Like he didn't know he could come from a Hitachi
Ooh.
before. Like, and he didn't really start exploring chastity till now. Like he thought it was just something that was like cool for videos, but something he wasn't personally interested in. But um like I'll be on the phone or something and he'll walk by and just like drop his pants and he's got like a cage on and I'm like, ugh, so hot.
Flirting you.
Yeah, and then I'll like be like, oh, can I like put the Hitachi on your clit? Because like I'll sometimes want to like sissify him. Um, and it's so funny because he's like the most like masculine looking dude, but like when we're fucking, like sometimes I just want to like be a lesbian with him.
Yeah, he looks
Um,
so good in lingerie too.
I know, and it's like he wears fishnets better than me. It's ridiculous. But yeah, we were once recently we were he was in chastity and I had the Hitachi like on it and I was like showing him like how he could come with it.
Yeah.
And then I was like fucking him at the same time with like the longest dildo I had strapped on. Um and so he was just like prostate coming, prostate coming. And then he's like, I think I'm gonna come, but like I'm not sure. So I pulled out, and then there was like no stimulation at all, but he like squirted across the room,
Ugh.
like and just like coated the wall with like squirt. And so I don't know. There's a lot of like hot debates about like the composition of female squirt. Like, is it piss? Is it not
Yeah.
piss? And then I don't even know what to think. Like, if it comes from a dude, but whatever it is, I was super into it.
Yeah.
It also made me laugh my ass off.
I'm
It's
sure.
like, you fucking pissed on the wall. I was like almost crying laughing. I was like, look what you did. But it was like so hot at the same
So
time.
hard to make someone lose control, like of all bodily function.
Yeah, and it's like in instances like that, like I'll be like, you know, playing with him for like upwards of an hour sometimes, and like I don't even like necessarily like want to come. I'm like I'm having too much fun. Like if I come, like the party's over usually. I'm just like, oh, I'm done. So I just like want to keep going. And that's what I love about prostate coming too. Like you can just, you know, the party doesn't stop there.
Yeah. 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 Definitely a skill to be able to keep going after coming. Um, ooh, the person that I'm quarantining with is like a very beautiful masochist, and I've been using her
Oh,
as my punching bag, which is really fun. And she is really into Femdom and humiliation. And so there's like a lot of verbal components to our relationship. And just thinking about you saying that, like, once you come, I'm going to cut your balls off to your husband. And I'm just like, I love being able to like have the time to finesse dirty talk down to the point where it's almost like, I think of like kind of like installing fetishes or like getting to like the crux of it,
yeah.
of what it is that someone like wants to hear that makes them completely unable to like remain in control. And I think I've had experiences as a pro dom where people are like, oh, do whatever you want to me, which my response to that is always like, great, castration, like no problem. And they're like,
Oh,
oh wait, I
yeah.
do have limits. I was like, oh, boring. uh,
Everybody does.
yeah. um but I have this experience with some men who just like aren't super like comfortable with their submissiveness, or they carry like shame around like their desires, particularly like when it has to do with like cross-dressing or gender play. um and I'm just like thinking of this one scene where he said that he was very verbal. He liked a very verbal top. And I was like, you know exactly what you want me to say, but you're not going to tell me. And he's like, mm-hmm. And it was like, you want me to like spend my time trying to figure out what the keywords that are like encoded into your sexuality are that you want to hear. And I just like broke. I was like, it turned into an interrogation scene. I'm like, tell me. I'm like, give me the ammo. Like, if you want me to dom you, like, I'm going to have that in my arsenal, and I'm going to like use it against you. And I finally got it out. But it's so interesting how like specific phrases are so loaded for some people, or just like have this instant response.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, I have little things like that too. Like, if I'm getting fucked and like, nowadays hormones have like made me feel so weird. So like I was on birth control for so long and it kind of like dulled my sex drive. And then after being sterilized, I went off and then I became a total horn dog, like more than I thought was possible. But like it's weird. I can like tell when I'm like ovulating now, the eggs aren't going anywhere. But I'm like, that's like when I feel like really like submissive and I just want to get like bent over like in a public restroom. Um, yeah, and like when I'm in those type of moods, I like really dark fantasies. Like my husband will be fucking me and he'll like be choking me and say it, and he's like, do you want to die tonight? And I'm like, oh. It's like
We're
I don't
very
know.
similar. I like to hear, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have a submissive who would say, we would like have similar dirty talk, and they're like, whenever you wish, like you tell me when that time is. Like,
I love that. That's like the ultimate. I think that's like why I really like the show Hannibal, because it's like I don't know, it's just so horny to like um have like the fantasy of like giving somebody like mind, body, and soul. And like by that I mean like the ability to take it all away.
it's like true. Like even just like playing with that is such a fun form of power play, or like tapping into some of those feelings of like feeling that way, and like sure, like safe, sane, and consensual, and like proper negotiation and trusting who you blah, blah,
Oh yeah.
blah. But I don't think anything is safe. Especially intimacy, dangerous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. And it's like in the back of our heads, like my husband knows like I'm not really gonna cut his balls off today at least. But like I don't know, it's just so hot to play with the idea of like grave bodily harm.
Yeah.
Because it really shows that like you trust somebody implicitly, like with your life and your body, so much that you'll let them do like whatever their will is to it.
Yeah, truly. Beautiful. My ex, we would talk at length about how he would will me his skin when I decided it was his time to die, and then I would jerk off other men in gloves I made out of his skin so I could cuckold him from the grave.
That's so beautiful.
Me being a softie.
I'm thinking about human skin gloves.
Oh, so lovely. Um, yeah. Oh, it's so fun to chat with you. I feel like I've just known you for so long and like seen so many different sides of you. And it's just really lovely.
Yeah, and definitely like when I first got into the business, I feel like I was in like a completely different space. Like I think I was in more of like a dark headspace, and I think that's one thing that really attracted me to hardcore submission. But now I feel like I'm a lot healthier, like mentally and physically. So I feel so much more comfortable like um, taking agency of myself, but also like other people.
Yeah. Well, I think submission can also be like very powerful, which
Oh
I'd
yeah.
love to like hear you talk about that, like if at times you find power in submission.
Yeah, there's like nothing quite like I'm not like a hiker or anything. I'm sure like if I hiked to the top of a mountain I would feel really accomplished, but there's something like so rewarding about going through a really hard situation and ending up on the other side of it okay, and like the endorphins that come with that, and the catharsis. I don't know, it's just something I haven't quite experienced anywhere else. And some of the most like hardcore shit I've done is stuff that was like predominantly my idea that I just wanted to like to overcome and like face,
Yeah.
and then get to the other side of that. Um, and I don't know, I just feel like a lot stronger because of a lot of the submissive stuff I've done.
Yeah, and I feel like having those intense experiences in like a contained space is like its own form of I like it can be potentially healing, it can just be like really empowering, or just like an incredible, like you're talking about hiking to the top of a mountain. The other thing that like intense hikers or endurance runners have is that like flow state that comes, and this like beautiful feeling of your brain where like time slows down and like all you're thinking about is this like present moment. And I always find that it has to be like challenging enough to like keep you stimulated, but not too hard that you're like going to necessarily fail. So you can like stay like in between in that like zone of tolerance and like continue to like push it slightly upwards.
Oh yeah, and that's why it's so important. Like people say like the sub is like always in control of the situation. In the best case scenario, that's true, but like if I'm doing a thing where like maybe sometimes like my safe word isn't heard because of stuff is just really noisy or whatever, which has happened like in certain like situations I've been in, or the dom will just like forget one of my limits, or like for me, like I don't like my pussy being slapped.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like it seems like hot to me, but it just I don't like it. It like makes me I either like start crying or I start punching.
Yeah.
Um and like sometimes like that's just like the go-to move for like a lot of dudes like for some reason. So like that happens and I'm like I'm suddenly not having a good time.
Right.
Um or I'll be like, okay, like I like electricity but like only in these places, and then someone forgets, and then it's just like it can turn from like I don't know, like a hike where like I can see the top to suddenly Saruman is screaming from the other mountain and the snow is coming down,
Yeah.
and now I have to turn around and like walk through the mines of Moria. Um, so I talk about Lord of the Rings a lot.
No, that
but
makes
I feel like you know Lord of the Rings can like be applied to a lot of situations in life. Um, but yeah, it's like it's so important for like those like healthy boundaries to be established and respected. Like um like I would love to cut my husband's balls off, but like if I have like them in a vice and like I'm ready to go with the knife and like at the last possible moment he's like, okay, stop, like I have to respect that or else like I'm a shitty dog.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's something too about like I feel like there's as long as someone's not like intentionally crossing your boundaries, I found like on both sides like um having the boundary being respected is like a positive modeling of like the way things should go, but also like it's like people are human and fallible, and like when something goes slightly wrong, I feel like there's an opportunity like for tremendous healing of like and like
Yeah.
reparative work of like when there is a rupture in a scene. If and like I've been as I've like been doing more work, I like try and play with people who are like open to like using those spaces of rupture. Not that like it's ever my intention to do that, just that like when two people are interacting together, someone is going to potentially cross someone's boundary at some point, no matter like how hard or like what preventative negotiation measures you have. um Even if it's just like, especially because I feel like people don't always know what all their boundaries are until it's crossed.
Yeah, that's true. And that's been a situation for me too. But yeah, I've had really rewarding moments with tops who are super experienced and caring, and they can like in an instant switch off like, you know, scary top and then like, you know, move into like maybe not aftercare, but like super caring mode and be like, hey, are you good?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I feel safe again, like safe enough for you to hurt me.
So you don't like have to go back down all the way the mountain.
Yeah, I'll just like have a dip and it's kind of it's cool. And I really like, I don't know, I don't think I have as much of a threshold for having my boundaries like crossed repeatedly in a scene, but
Oh
if someone who's like really really good at what they do can like threaten me with like
yeah. Mm.
the the threat of like having a boundary crossed, um like I'll work with JP from Kink a lot,
Mhm.
and I'm okay with like electricity in certain situations, but I don't always like cattle prods. Sometimes I'm like, hey, like I don't want to do the cattle prod today, and he'll like get it like really really close to me and like turn it on. And he's like, okay, what if I just like shocked your pussy right now? And I'll like start crying because I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Even though like I know never in a million years would he like cross that boundary because like I told him not to, but he
Right.
knows he can like fuck with me and make me like just for a second think that he's going to.
Right.
And
That's
there's just
communication and like trust and like
yeah.
building it up in a relationship.
Yeah, and like it really like works well with our dynamic because I've been working with him for like um you pretty much since the beginning of my career, like 5 years, 6 years ish. Um but then like when I'm like fearing for like I don't know, I have this like primal fear and I'm like bawling, crying, and I'm so scared. Then like when I finally come, it feels like so much better. I just really like to be scared and horny at the same time.
What's better? What
Yeah.
name a better duo?
Yeah.
Iconic duo. um yeah, and I think like that kind of play really takes communication and trust and like an ongoing relationship for sure. Which all like my brain's just like I've been like having these chats with people which have been like really fun and like lieu of being able to like do things in person. And one thing that we've never shot a scene together.
I know. I
I
would
think it's
really
a lot.
love that. Like definitely next time you come to Vegas or if I can make my way out to
Yeah.
you, that'd be awesome. It's tough because I feel like anytime like I'm traveling, I'm sure like you probably relate to this too. It's like I kind of get like overstimulated. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much. And then it's like I want to see everybody, but
Yeah.
it's like you only get so much time and then I don't know, it's tough, especially like in I feel like in New York it's like harder to get around
Yeah.
and do
Everything's
stuff.
exhausting in New York.
Yeah, it reminds me of LA a bit because it's like, oh, you live like 12 miles away. I'll see you in an hour.
Also, you never.
Yeah.
Definitely part of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I feel like co-tapping would be really fun though.
Yeah, I have so much fun. I remember like some sessions we've done where you kind of like were like dom training me.
Hmm.
And I was like kind of nervous to do stuff, but then like you'd be like no, and then you'd like hit your sub, and I'm like, oh, okay, I see. And then it's so much fun to be able to like bounce energy off of another
Yeah.
person.
Some double dom sessions are some of my favorite. Just like it's like you're conspiring with a friend of like how to hurt someone is such like a joyful, mischievous experience.
I love that. And like having been on the receiving end of like getting the beat down from like two like hotties at the same time, it's like what more could you possibly want like as a sub?
It's spiritual.
Mm. It's a spiritual experience for sure.
Truly. Um, well, I'm gonna wrap this up, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to touch on or talk about.
I don't know. I feel like we've been very illuminating and inspiring.
Thank you for joining our TED Talk on spiritual awakening
Ball busting and spirituality and castration.
as like the peak. That's like enlightenment.
I agree.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad we can end on that note. I'm gonna pause the recording real quick.